Chapter 51. Garden of Nak 3. Garden of Nak 3. In front of me was Mimic, an intermediate monster. It is known to take the form of treasure chests to lure adventurers and devour them. It was waiting at the end of a passage. It looks no different from chests that appeared after defeating 1F and 2F bosses, but unfortunately for it, I have an advanced detection. I was suspicious the moment I saw it, and immediately, I used Leap and Beast Charge and struck it with a power attack. Mimic died in one blow. It gave a lot of experience compared to other monsters. A notification window informed of a level up. Finally, I have reached level 70. 100 gold is required to enter the Garden of Nak. Upon reaching level 70, another notification window about admission to the Garden of Nak popped up. Its entrance fee is unreasonably higher than that of the dedicated store. Li Chanyu approached me and judged the situation. "Captain, was that a mimic?" "Ha! It's great. It's not a treasure box, but mimic is a jackpot. Since the time I opened my eyes in a goblin's body, there was only one thing I hated most inside the dungeon, aside from humans and natives. A monster that cannot be eaten. It looks wooden. If there would be a treasure chest with the most artifacts inside the dungeon, it would be a mimic. Why? Because it would have swallowed the greatest number of adventurers." After explaining that to Li Chanyu, I pulled Blood Shadow out of the mimic's corpse. But nothing came out. It was disappointing. It should give us something. "Yes, but Captain, you are the first conqueror, so..." In anger, I burned the corpse to pieces and opened the door to the dedicated store. I would have entered the Garden of Nak immediately, but with the 100 gold entrance fee, I should be cautious. Before going in, I should at least share a word or two with Rain. Not relying on him and not losing money like an idiot were two completely different stories, I thought. "Li Chanyu, I need to go somewhere. Alone. I may come back right away, but there's a good chance I won't." "Are you leaving this dungeon?" It's hard to explain. I left it at just that and stepped into the dedicated store. "You are here, Fate." The desire not to rely on Rain kept me away from the dedicated store for quite a long time. But nevertheless, as always, Rain greeted me as if I was a regular customer. His comfortable smile always disarms me. It must be one of his most terrifying abilities, along with his ability to guess exactly what I was thinking. Today he was wiping a clean glass. It looks like it has never been used. He praised me with a tone that didn't go well with his usually calm demeanor. "Fate always surprises me. You have become very strong again." "I'm still far away from being strong." "Woohoo! Fate's spirit is really amazing." He smiled gently and placed the glass in front of me. "I know you're very anxious. It's just a pity I can't tell you everything I know right now." "No. Even if you try to give me information, it always ends up to be confusing." "Rain, I need information right now." "Right now? You need information about the Garden of Nak." "Yes. Please give me the right information this time, not vague ones like in the Jinma Tower." "I would pay for information." "But didn't I give you accurate information about Jinma Tower?" He smiled, forcing me to sigh. The Jinma Tower is a safe training center. It was definitely accurate information, but it was too vague. At one point, I thought I would never get out of the tower alive. This is all brought about by his overconfidence with me. I would need more than that this time. "Please, Rain. Do you know how much money I have?" "Yeah, maybe. You met humans." For a moment, his eyes sharpened, but soon they returned to normal. "I could have told you about it, but..." "Sorry, Fate. I knew it would be better if you go through it and learn by yourself. I can only tell you that I am Fate's friend forever." I never doubted that. He had helped me come this far. I did not doubt Rain, as there was nothing to gain from doing so. "By the way, it is a garden of pleasure." "This?" He wondered about something. Then he laughed before continuing. "I think the word misnomer is the most appropriate." "A misnomer?" "Yes, it's a greatly misleading name." Rain can't help but grin continuously, covering his mouth in an attempt to hide it. "What's so funny? I have never seen him like this." He can barely stop laughing even when I tapped on the table with my thick black finger. "No, it's nothing. Thinking about her, I can't stop laughing. He coughed and reached out a palm. Information fee, please. I will only take 15 gold. Here. Rain turned serious as I handed him the gold. I will tell you 3 things. First, you don't need any combative skills in the Garden of Nak. You don't even need to bring a sword. You don't even need to synthesize armor. I was thinking of reinforcing my equipment to prepare for another tough battle. But it was as if he predicted my thoughts. Blood Shadow has already been enhanced, but my armor is still Blood Iron armor, so it would be reasonable to enhance it as well today. There was an armor composite scroll in my inventory, and with 4 armors, including Blood Iron armor, I have enough materials. Today, I plan to synthesize a new armor, even if I had to purchase more materials at the dedicated store to do it. But I found out I don't have to. Second, it is a space to test and raise Fate's abilities. You should know it by this point. Don't be fooled by names. I know that very well. Third, he laughed a little again and spoke in a voice that seemed to hold back laughter. Try to keep your senses as insensitive as possible, and increase your tolerance for abnormal conditions. To desensitize and to raise tolerance for abnormal conditions? I didn't know what this was talking about. It was a very clear instruction, but it confused me. However, I think I know why the word misnomer came out. So, the Garden of Nak is a place to practice tolerance? It is. By the way, my tolerance for abnormalities is already too high. She wouldn't expect it. Rain laughed again, possibly imagining her reaction. Whoever it is waiting for me in the garden. I shrugged. Then Rain, please give me today's luck. From the moment you leave the exclusive store, you will become more attractive for 5 hours. If I had a battle ahead, it was a useless buff. However, when Rain heard the buff I received, he began to laugh again. It made me annoyed. Then, I opened the door to the Garden of Nak. The Garden of Nak is the realm of the soul. While in the Garden of Nak, the body stays in the subspace. The notification made me very anxious. Isn't this what happened in the Jinma Tower, where the soul and the body lost their boundaries and became one? Didn't I get beaten to countless deaths in that state? I was afraid of what unknown hell was about to unfold. But if I don't enter, I can't evolve. I have no choice. I sighed. And then I opened the door decorated with gold and roses and stepped into it. The scene behind the door was unexpected. I was so surprised that I almost screamed. Calm down. Kang Siha, be calm. The moment I opened the door and entered the room, what unfolded in front of my eyes was a large, colorful room. Pictures of a beautiful naked woman hang on the wall, and on one side was the largest and most luxurious bed I've ever seen. There was a large table in the middle of the room, and 2 chairs were placed so that 2 people could sit face to face. There was a small side door on the other side. I knew immediately that this was not the only entrance to the room. Those things didn't matter at all right now. My leg, my arm. I am a bugbear. A black and thick-skinned monster 2m 50 centimeters tall. But now, my legs and arms were far from being monstrous. They are moderately muscular, but far from being as thick as logs. My complexion was exceptionally dark, but other than that, it was no different from that of other humans. The limbs look very fragile. It's not just the arms and legs. My whole body was like that. When I touched my hand on my face, I felt the smooth skin. It is skin that I have never had when I open my eyes with a monster's body. My height must have changed, too. The change of viewpoint proved it. If there is a mirror in the room, I can tell for sure, but it was frustrating that I couldn't. Why? Is it because only the soul has separated from my body? Does this mean that even with a monster's body, my soul retained its human form? Countless questions floated in my mind. Honestly, it was questionable whether I really did not have a body right now. Everything felt so vivid that it was too much. I even thought that someone with more power than a trickster was tricking me, but I ruled out the possibility. The notification window has never lied to me. Souls must have mass in a place where only souls exist, I concluded. Then the small side door opened. The first thing I saw was burning red eyes and thick lips. Then her pale skin and 2 pointed ears. Long, black hair. A white dress that clung to her delicate body. She was a beautiful woman. She's definitely not a human, with those excessively pale skin, pointed ears, and facial features, but she's beautiful nonetheless. She looked at me and blinked her red eyes. My lips trembled. Even such a slight gesture looked beautiful. You are finally here, Fate. She knows me, and maybe I know her too. Let's start the game, Fate. Be prepared. Chapter 52. Garden of Nak. 4. Garden of Nak. 4. When she flicked her fingers, 2 square plates appeared on the table. Piled up on it were wooden blocks. The first to build a castle win. I doubted my ears for a moment, but her expression was very serious. If anyone attacks or touches the other, it would mean disqualification. Touching the opponent's castle would also get you disqualified. If a block drops or was not properly placed, the castle would be reset. With another gesture from her graceful hands, the 2 chairs facing the table slowly moved backward, as if inviting us to sit on them. If you build a castle first or if I get disqualified, you win. That's it. However, if I build a castle first or if you get disqualified or your castle resets, you lose. Lose 5 times, you need to leave the garden and try again. You have to pay 100 gold again. That's all. Ha! She laughed. My heart thumped violently as she did. With one light laugh from her, it was as if my heart was getting crushed. Yes, that's all. Now, then come and sit down. She led me over to a chair and we sat down. The game started right away. She began to build a castle calmly and in a relaxed manner. I couldn't stop staring at her beauty. She caught me watching her, and laughed again as if she knew my situation. Okay, it's ridiculous, but I haven't even picked up a single block. Her radiant appearance was taking all my attention, and I seemed to be unable to do anything in front of her. Being in a monster's body, I know how powerful appearance is. I learned how foolish it is to judge a person only by appearance, and nevertheless, I also knew that everyone, including myself, could not be free from the influence of appearance. I thought I knew, but it seems that I have been underestimating the power of appearance. She is beautiful. Looking at her pale skin, her small nose, her slightly reddish cheeks, her red lips, her big and deep eyes, her sharp ears, her dark hair, her thin, smooth arms, her beautifully swollen breasts, her thin waist. It was very difficult to take my glance off her. My eyes roamed all over her parts. Not only that, her body had a wonderful scent, and a refreshing wind seemed to blow around her. All of her haunted me. It was difficult to breathe just by facing her. Now I could fully understand Rain's words. Advanced detection is poison in this situation. The more I sensed her presence, the more I became unable to compose myself. Cut it off. Don't be conscious. Just remember how I was treated by humans just by being reborn as a monster. Realize how foolish it is to judge one's existence by their beauty alone. What is it? Go ahead. She gestured towards my blocks. Her melodic voice put me out of my thoughts. This is an ordeal. An ordeal against a monster that is scarier than the monsters I encountered in Jinma Tower. Forget about her looks. I paid a price of 100 gold to get here. If I don't defeat her, I can't evolve. I will not be able to move forward. No matter how beautiful and sweet she is my enemy, after all. So you have to focus. Don't get shaken by her appearance. It is a blasphemy against yourself who had survived fiercely until this moment. Abnormal resistance. It is the sole skill that I turned active at the moment, and I raised it to the limit. The refreshing wind that brought the scent of flowers gradually subsided. Her appearance gradually fades in my head. Intermediate abnormal resistance becomes LV10 and evolves to advanced abnormal resistance. You will not be subjected to the intermediate level or lower. There is a possibility to resist even higher state abnormalities. Only after that did I saw the plate in front of my eyes. It was full of wooden blocks. She made a small sound as she noticed that I started working on the blocks. I ignored her. Being fascinated by her voice would be fatal. It wasn't that difficult to build a castle. I just need to build pillars, walls, and roofs. Once my hands started moving, the rest was easy. Almost mechanically, I moved to stack blocks. I knew that dropping even a single piece would reset the castle, so I moved carefully. Now, wait a second, she murmured. Is it because I'm in my soul state? Even though I wasn't in my original monster's body, I had no problem thinking and acting with this strange human form that I had. Rather, because of the dramatic difference in body shape, I was gradually getting used to the difficult parts of the building blocks. This wasn't a game. It seemed like a physical rehabilitation exercise. Too bad that I have to return to the bugbear body later. Fate. Look at me. The foundations were completed. I am starting to build the pillars. It seemed that the table was getting bigger. Every time the blocks settled in place, an unknown fullness filled my heart. How? Nonsense. This is nonsense. Advanced abnormality resistance has become LV2. Place a pillar to support the center, and erect other pillars as needed. I wasn't interested in anything like this, but now my hands were moving surprisingly and without hesitation. Was it because I was blocking all my senses that I was getting more immersed in building a castle? It was unexpectedly fun. I found out that I also had the talent to immerse myself in one thing. How are you doing this? Who is it? Someone must have told fate. At that moment my hands stopped. I almost instinctively lifted my head, but I fought back with clenched teeth. I don't know how she did it, but the impulse that had disappeared was pushing into my head again. The instinct that I had been trying to ignore was trying to devour my focus. It was more difficult to endure her charm. Yes, fate. Have you reached your limit now? I thought of the fallen, who died because they were wearing the skin of a monster. I remembered the phoenix hunters, who thought they were better than the fallen just because they have human forms. Endure. Endure. I endured her increased charms. Advanced abnormality resistance has become LV3. Fate. Fate. My hands started to move again. The interior of the castle was divided and decorated with several blocks. Because the blocks are all different sizes, I had to pay close attention to the balance, but it was also fun. Only the step of building the roof was left. Even though I was just building blocks, I felt my spirit was gradually elevating. It seemed that my soul, along with my castle, was getting higher and more solid as time passed. Fate! Oh! At that moment all my concentration broke. My mind flashed as if cold water was poured all over my body. I raised my head. She was holding my hand. Winning the first game of the Garden of NAK 1/1. Owner of the garden committed a foul. She will pay you for the penalty she has committed. A notification window popped up quietly. Since she took my hand first, I won the first game. Even with my advanced abnormality resistance, my reason seems to be falling apart as she held me, but I desperately endured. As I was struggling to resist the rising lust, I saw tears in her eyes. How did you endure it? Me? How dare you ignore me? Damn. Her beauty was so precious that I feared touching her would damage her. First, let me go, I managed to say. Ah. Ah. Her eyes went wide open, and soon, she let go of my hand. A feeling of loss swept through me as she did, but at the same time, a feeling of relief. It was a strange mood. I spoke without looking at her. I must endure your charms to win. So, I just put up with it. You should have failed at least a dozen times. No, even hundreds or thousands of times. If I fail thousands of times, it means that I will be throwing away hundreds of thousands of gold. I only have 2,000 gold right now, from the battle with Phoenix Hunters. It's ridiculous. You shouldn't have Arg. Where are you looking at? I said straight ahead. Fate. I'm looking at you now. I don't know you, I answered immediately. I was once a human being and now I'm Fate, a bugbear. I have never known for a moment with a beautiful girl like you. Ha! She closed her eyes. She raised her arms and covered her face with her hem. When the hem went down, her face looked more emotional. Yes, today is our first meeting. Her beauty didn't fade at all. I couldn't understand why Rain laughed. She looked beautiful even when she was angry. And you proved your qualifications by winning the first game with me. Then she glanced at my unfinished castle on the table. I used a force that didn't fit the first level, and that is considered a foul. Fate. I'll make your castle stronger and more beautiful in return. When she swung one hand, the rest of the blocks went into their places, forming a great castle by themselves. Strangely enough, I felt uplifted at that moment. It was as if the soul moved to the next level. Intuitively, I realized that it wasn't just an ordinary blocky castle. Fate, let me know. What? How the hell did you endure me? I'll just listen. I promise. I don't have anything to hide. So I answered honestly. I just put up with it. What? Everything. She was silent for a moment. Then, she slowly approached my face. Her scent made me frightened. It was more difficult now than in the game. Eye-to-eye contact. I saw my reflection in her eyes. No way you could have done it alone, she murmured. She stepped back. The room vibrated. Her body was trembling. I won't forgive you. Anger that did not suit her was now dominating the room. Whoever it is who helped you one day, I will surely use my 2 hands. Mana raged. It was a really great power. If I had my physical body here now, it would have been shattered because of her power. I was able to endure it because I am in my soul state. Suddenly, she shouted. Fate, leave now. Don't get caught by me. She asked me how I endured it, then turned angry and made leave. It was really strange. But she is right. Since I already won the game, I don't have to stay here. I must fight against countless monsters, win, and eat. I have to move on to the next step. I approached the door. But before opening the door, I looked back at her. She was standing in the middle of a storm of energy, still looking very beautiful. Tell me your name, I asked her. What? The storm faded for a moment. She looks beautiful even as she had a confused expression, I thought. The next time I come, I want to call you by a name. It doesn't matter if it's a pseudonym. Give me a name I could call you. What names did they give you? There is no doubt about who they were. Only Rain and A. Garbage. She laughed. I thought I had seen that laugh somewhere, and it soon came to mind. It was similar to Lee Chanyu's laugh. Okay. Fate. Will you call me L from now on? I nodded. Yes, L. Then I left the Garden of Nak. I turned into a bugbear once more. The battle against monsters resumed. Chapter 53, 3F Breakthrough 1. 3F Breakthrough 1. The third floor of Black Palace District 7 was different from the first and second floors in many ways. Scale? Of course, it is larger. The quest was to catch 100,000 monsters, so it made sense that the third floor had a space that was not comparable to the second floor. On the second floor, I had a map of it drawn in my head and could go around it with ease, but it was impossible to do that on the third floor. It's not just that. The number of rooms and passages also increased. At the end of such rooms were treasure chests, but annoyingly, most of them are mimics. Apart from knowing that they are mimics at first sight, you can also skewer them from top to bottom in one blow. You're amazing, Captain. It's because you're weak. Sheesh. I was teasing him. Lee Chanyu was strong. After recovering his health and strength, he fought without hesitation against intermediate monsters on the third floor using his outstanding energy and recovery power. He wants to achieve evolution. As far as I know, no one has ever succeeded in evolution. However, if it is possible for a monster, it will be possible for a fallen. I will surely be the first. I am the first. Damn! Our fighting styles matched quite well. He uses speed and resilience as an infighter who rushes without fear into the crowd, while I pick off a group of monsters one by one using fairy tale and surprise, until there's no more left. He charges and grabs attention while I finish them off. However, there were 2 problems. First, my abilities, especially the surprise skill, was far higher than that of the intermediate monsters on the third floor and Lee Chanyu. After killing a monster with a surprise attack, I could immediately disappear again for another strike. Thus, Lee Chanyu didn't really need to draw the monster's attention for me. I could annihilate everything alone. Second, on Earth, with the concept of guilds and parties, experience and gold are shared when a monster is killed as a group. However, there was a skill necessary to form a party. Leadership. Since I cannot place Lee Chanyu under my leadership skill, the colleague dynamic we have does not work effectively. No matter how much someone contributed to killing a monster, the one who dealt the final blow gets all the experience and gold. Temporarily, I suggested to Lee Chanyu to place me under his leadership, but he opposed it and said it was impossible. It was impossible for a person with an advanced level of leadership skill to be under someone with a lower leadership. If he and I could be linked through leadership, we both would have grown more, but it was simply impossible right now. In the end, what we could do is get him to hunt alone within my range of detection. Lee Chanyu had the ability to survive on the 3rd floor, except when the number of monsters is too large, where his recovery could not sustain the damage he's taking. Therefore, I only support him during dangerous moments, and we hunt separately most of the time. With that, we explored the spacious 3F. I thought that would be enough, and in the first few days it certainly seemed so. But it was not enough. Level up. Lee Chanyu, you told me you could become strong with me. I'm getting stronger too. But you're getting stronger too fast. I was getting impatient as Lee Chanyu's level struggled to keep up. Of course, there was a difference in our experiences. He must have lived a desperate existence as I did, but when it comes to hunting in dungeons, I am ahead of him. There wasn't much difference between his level and mine when we first met, but when I reached level 75, he was only around level 65. Of course, the annihilation of the Phoenix Hunters is a big factor in my level increase, but the gap shouldn't have been this great. I thought hard about it and decided there was one main difference in our hunting. Sleep. I have predation and a high level of resistance to abnormalities. Since I opened my eyes as a goblin, I have never slept. I kept going around all the time to hunt monsters. It was natural that I would level up faster than Lee Chanyu. But think about it. Was it only predation and resistance that could wipe out fatigue instantly? No, there was something else. Reaching a level up. I could not ask him not to sleep because he doesn't have predation, but wouldn't reaching level up alleviate all fatigue and injuries he sustained? When I explained it to him, he was stunned. Is that possible? At least you can expect all physical fatigue to be gone. But it must be hard not to sleep. It's not that simple. It is simple. Lee Chanyu looked at me with a blank face. Then his expression distorted as if he realized something. It reminded me of Elle's reaction the other day. The only thing that differed was that it was a beautiful woman the other day, and now I am facing a werewolf. Does that mean that, Captain, you haven't slept all this time? Don't pity me, because from now on you won't be sleeping too. Is it really possible? Sure. Of course, it was a simple matter for me because I had predation. I could overcome physical fatigue simply by eating the monsters. With Lee Chanyu, even without predation, he could probably level up once every 3 days. 3 days were short enough to endure without sleeping, especially for an intermediate monster like a werewolf. The only reason you're still sleeping is because your habits remain human. We are not human. Monsters don't sleep for at least 3 or 4 days. So you should be fine. I must be determined. We were not only fighting monsters, but we are also fighting time. The fear of not knowing when a strong human will enter the dungeon and the obsession to become stronger before that happened consumed us. With that, Lee Chanyu proved that he could withstand without sleeping. From then on, his level-up rate also increased. My body is not sleepy, but my mind wants to sleep. Damn it. You'll get used to it in a month or so. Just focus on leveling up. I absolutely don't want to become like you. It's unbelievable that you were once human. I laughed thinly at his words. Incidentally, I was thinking the same thing these days. 3F is big. Moreover, there are a lot of requirements to complete the quest. I couldn't finish it or make great progress in a day or two, like on 1F or 2F. I had to catch 100,000 normal monsters and 20,000 top species. It would take around 83 days even if I hunt one monster per minute. Of course, I can kill a monster in a minute, but including the time it took to search for monsters, it was too much. At first, I numb-mindedly complied with the task. But as my level increased and I become more familiar with the intermediate monsters that appear on 3F, my thoughts changed. We're wasting time. That thought echoed louder as I watched Lee Chanyu, who began to get stronger quickly after giving up sleep. There is a significant difference in abilities between him and me, but due to the limit of the number of monsters that could fit in one space, we always end up killing the same number of monsters per day. With my abilities, it was possible to kill a monster at a rate of not only 1 per minute, but even 1 per 5 seconds. Why should I stay on the 3rd floor for 3 months? I could not allow it to happen. Such wasted time may prove to be nooses on our necks in the future. But what could we do? I only came to one conclusion: a mass appearance. I consulted it with Lee Chan-yu. He has achieved level 70 and has become quite confident in his own strength, but he suddenly showed weakness after listening to me. I haven't heard of anything that could artificially cause mass appearance. And bear in mind that these are all intermediate monsters. But we can't keep doing this. We have to get stronger faster. Lee Chan-yu, didn't you say you are determined? Damn in. Let's do it. There is only one way to cause a mass appearance: killing many monsters in a short time. And Lee Chan-yu had a skill that was most suitable for this. War Cry, a skill possessed by wolf monsters, especially werewolves, that arouses hostility from enemies. However, it was a skill that was absolutely prohibited in dungeons. The effect of invoking the enemies is too dangerous. Even at a beginner level, War Cry could summon all monsters within a few hundred meters. The Werewolf Fallen even called this skill suicide. It wasn't a skill I could be envious of. Lee Chan-yu's War Cry is already at an intermediate level. The cry spreads farther, and more monsters would flock to it. When all those summoned monsters are killed, the mass appearance will occur, and more monsters will come. After hearing the disturbance, more monsters will flock around the area where the mass appearance occurred, and if a lot of them are killed, another mass appearance will occur. It would continue until the 3rd floor runs out of monsters. Everything can be dealt with in one place. This makes it possible to catch tens of thousands of monsters at once. That's perfect. Then it's perfect. Shall we pick our coffins in advance? When we met, Lee Chan-yu had a very serious demeanor, but now he knows how to joke around. He must have been a humorous and warm man. I like it this way rather than getting someone who was dull and boring like me. I laughed and tapped on his shoulder. Then he snarled with his sharp teeth. He let out a long, loud howl. An intermediate War Cry LV7 howl that rang far and wide inside 3F. The monsters around us have already been killed, so there was no immediate response. I prepared myself and maximized my detection. Soon, I felt the ground vibrating weakly. Thump, thump. The dungeon's vibrations are getting more intense. The ebon heart matched its pace. They are coming. Damn. This is amazing. Captain, if I die. Lee Chan-yu, don't assume death. If we don't kill them all, we die. But we don't have to think about death. We should not think of death. We are going to kill them all. We will survive and be stronger. No one can ignore us. No one will attempt to hunt us. Ha, damn it. That sounds impossible. But I'm starting to get excited. Hundreds and thousands of monsters are getting closer, flocking from everywhere. I quietly grabbed Blood Shadow with my left hand. Lee Chan-yu adjusted his armor, then snarled and pulled out his claws. The battle is coming. The battle that will make us stronger. Chapter 54. 3F Breakthrough 2. 3F Breakthrough 2. There were flying monsters on the 3rd floor. Giant vampire bats, floating wriggling ones with large eyes, and even giant moths. The first ones to arrive after the war cry was these flying monsters. Since most of them have the ability to attack from a distance, it was annoying to deal with them along with the monsters on the ground. Therefore, as soon as they appeared in my field of vision, I fired several daggers at them and caught them in traps. The traps consumed byproducts from the monsters that were overflowing on the 3rd floor. Key! The main herd is coming, Captain. Move fast. I know. As I swung my blood shadow using one hand, another hand held a long, black lightning bolt that made a crackling sound in the air. It was a new ability that emerged when black lightning reached the intermediate level. Not only could I shoot black bolts, but I could wield it in the form of a whip. I hit the floor and ran, swinging the hip, It caught the monsters that fell to the floor and dragged them to the direction I was running to. Then I charged black lightning on them and slashed at them with blood shadow. Key EIK. Blood flame and power attack, plus the new speed gained from annihilating the Phoenix Hunters. To use both skills at the same time, the consumption of stamina and mana was extreme, but it was not that bad for me. Kick. I swung a long sword horizontally. The flaming blood flying in the air was an energy that even intermediate monsters would find difficult to touch. The blood shadow possessed terrible power. Combined with black lightning and the strength of a bugbear, all the monsters within the horizontal orbit the sword made lost their lives. You gained 23,600 experience. You acquired 25 silver. As more monsters surrounded me, I activated Surprise and Fairy Tale. All their attacks missed their aim. Projectiles that come too close get slashed down by blood shadow. I picked out a monster that looked moderately delicious and bit off its head, before quickly hiding again. Only the screaming of my victims gave a clue to where I was. Each moment, one of them dies again. I have no intention to rest. Key. Keek. Kickik. Attack, predate, hide. The secret to constantly accumulating death counts without getting attacked is that simple. One more thing. I have detection. All my senses are improved, easily searching for gaps in the monsters around me. I could grasp and respond to their movements, their attacks, their evasion, everything. Traps continue to pop up and immobilize enemies within my sight's reach. There is no need to imbue lethal power on the traps. Tie their feet, and in the next moment, cut their throats. Qua qua. Captain. Armored bear. To your left. The ground monsters who made the dungeon floor vibrate has come. They were covered with hardened pelts, which attacks could not break through. In fact, it even hurts to hit them. Of course, they have weaknesses. The back, head, and their necks are hard, but there are spots around their belly button which were not hardened. You could shove a sword into it and burst the creature's heart. The moment they appeared, I hit the floor with beast charge. They broke through the wall and were running directly at Lee Chanyu. Lee Chanyu was running to the left, as I instructed. His feet were glowing with silver light as if he had activated skills to increase his speed. If I didn't help him, he would be crushed soon. I quickly brought up the inventory. There were 10 consumable items called Devil's Hooks. They are items I received upon evolving into a bugbear, and its description was extremely simple. Creates a sharp hook on the floor and grabs a monster's ankles. I used monster byproducts and 2 demon hooks and created a trap in the path of the armored bear group while killing monsters that flocked around me. The group of the armored bears and Lee Chanyu collided. With his tackle, some of the bears got thrown in the air like cartoon characters. The rest of the group got caught in the trap I set up, causing them to stumble upon each other. Now it's time for me to finish them off. However, the number of monsters surrounding me was by no means small. While I sprinkled traps to support Lee Chanyu, I got fully surrounded. If I focused on these monsters around me, Lee Chanyu would suffer serious damage from the bears. But I know what to do. Who? Using lower-level fantasy magic, I created an illusion of my image standing at my spot, and with Fairy Tale I hid, melting into the illusion I created. Then, when all the monsters charged at the illusion, I escaped using the full leap and beast rush. Lower fantasy magic has become LV9. Kia ah! By the time they have realized that they have been tricked, I was already at the armored bear group. A trap that used Lunatic Trickster was also installed in the place where my illusion stood, so they were immobilized for a while. The various skills I used are gradually increasing in level as I use them. Arg, they keep coming. Let's finish this quickly. I swung Blood Shadow. There can be no failure with my attack. Advanced detection and martial arts are making my movements sharper and deadlier. Since these monsters seem to be never-ending, my movements had to be quick and accurate. You gained 27,810 experience. You acquired 31 silver. You gained 29,708 experience. You acquired 34 silver. Fuck it. Yes. Everyone, come on. Lee Chanyu's eyes burned fiercely. His nails and legs were covered with a more intense glow. His desire to win was as strong as his abilities. As I continued to reduce the number of monsters without much difficulty, he seemed to have the idea that he was doing it all on his own. Ho 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 ho. He was different from the first time I met him when he was passive towards the idea of hunting intermediate monsters. He thought it was impossible, but he changed. That's why I liked him. Go take a mana potion. I'll drive them away. I trust you, Captain. The werewolf roared fiercely. It was so fierce that even the armored bears could not help but tremble. I smiled and lifted Blood Shadow. While I finished them off, I detected a group of other intermediate monsters approaching. One by one, they were no match for me. Against hundreds or thousands, a little moment of carelessness will end up with fangs on my neck. In the past, I have cursed myself for creating such a situation. But now I knew better. It's not just this dungeon that I have to fight. Even at this moment, there are unknown enemies outside the dungeon who wanted to bite my neck. As soon as I'm satisfied with my power, as soon as I rested, I'll fall into a pit and never get up again. In order to survive, I have to keep risking my life to get stronger. It's really a paradox, but that is my life now as a monster. This tension and fear make me stronger and faster. I dashed. Every movement was infused with leap and beast charge. It would be more exciting if other monsters had skills that assist them in movements, too. I smiled bitterly at the thought. After this mass appearance is over, I could definitely get another skill or two that I can use. With that in mind, I kept swinging Blood Shadow. And time passed. Predation after hunting regular monsters in Black Palace 3F100. 000/100. 00. Predation after hunting high-level species in Black Palace 3F20. 000/20. 000. I can't help but feel proud as the two notification windows announced my accomplishment. In fact, the chain of mass appearances didn't even end long after I reached the quest requirement, so it was a bit of a disadvantage that I had to continue moving instead of devouring the enemies. But finally, the third floor was quiet. Now, I have finished predating the last horde of monsters. It was a pleasant coincidence that I achieved 2 of the quests at the same time. Captain, did you eat them all? Didn't you see it? But there were hundreds, thousands. You kept moving and didn't see it. I even ate about 70,000 in one seating. That's impossible. I only ate 7, and my stomach is bursting. Li Chanyu is also a monster who didn't hesitate to eat monster meat. However, without predation, he could only get a feeling of fullness and nutrition. He could even get poisoned unless his resistance could make up for it. Imagine. I survived. Li Chanyu mumbled to himself in disbelief. Then his eyes began to droop. I don't know how long we've been fighting without sleeping. The hour hand rotated a little over 13 laps. So, you mean, for over 6 days now, I have been swinging my claws through intestines and screaming my war cry? Something like that, yes. I swung Blood Shadow, soaking up the river of blood flowing in all directions. This battle was nothing compared to what I experienced on the first floor of Jinma Tower. We were greatly outnumbered, but I was fully in control. All I had to do was keep swinging my sword. Li Chanyu, are you ready now? I just need to rest a little. Then let's go. I need a little rest. Li Chanyu complained loudly, but he stood up, nevertheless. There must be a reason why you wanted to move again so quickly. What is it? Simple. Predation after hunting rare species in Black Palace 3F0/500. We've cleared the 3F, but we still haven't encountered a single rare species. Obviously, they must be in an area that we haven't figured out yet. In order to find it, we must move now while the dungeon is empty. Rare, higher-level species. Li Chanyu seemed to be mumbling to himself, agonizing. Then he nodded and clenched his fists. Oh, it doesn't matter. I can catch them. We ran down the 3rd floor. It didn't take long for a monster to get caught in my advanced detection. Chapter 55. 3F Breakthrough 3. 3F Breakthrough 3. In the depths of the 3rd floor, where the path forked 3 ways, we found a wooden door at the middle passage. Its appearance does not fit the dungeon walls, which were made of gray stone. Beyond it, I could sense the faint presence of monsters. A gate. Lee Chanyu's voice was tense. When I asked him about it, he started to explain. I've heard about it, but it's the first time I've seen one. It was said that if you find a gate within a dungeon, it meant that the dungeon is divided into 2 zones. 2 zones. Then, the boss room will be over there. Right? There was no hesitation. I grasped Blood Shadow and checked the 5 daggers tied to my thigh. When I turned to look at Lee Chanyu, he was already in a running stance. I opened the door. Did he call it a gate? It was indeed an appropriate expression. Beyond the wooden door was an entirely different dungeon. Unlike the 1F, 2F, and 3F, which had the appearance of natural caves, this place was a mystical landscape. It looked like a setting for a video game. Lee Chanyu relaxed as soon as he sensed that there were no monsters nearby. I don't have a lot of dungeon experience, but it's my first time to see like this, he said. Of course, there were monsters caught by my advanced detection. I sensed that they recognized our presence, and they are starting to move, but there is still time to orient ourselves. Their distance was hundreds of meters away. I installed traps as I looked around. Are these obsidians? Lee Chanyu asked. No. Unlike the previous dungeons we have passed through, the place beyond the gate looked entirely made of translucent black rocks. It was easy to mistake it for obsidian, but after tapping it with Blood Shadow, I determined that it was hard and durable. Then, a thought passed through my head. The name of this dungeon. The Black Palace. What did you say, Captain? Never mind. So, is this the Black Palace? There were huge black rock walls and corridors. It does deserve to be called the Black Palace. Perhaps the dungeon we have explored so far was only the front yard of the Black Palace. A place to filter out things that don't qualify to reach this place. Thinking about it, we were only able to find this gate after overcoming the endless mass appearances on the 3rd floor. If I hadn't been reckless, it might not have been possible to find it. From now on, we're in the real dungeon. I should abandon the idea that everything we encounter could be handled as easily as before. I raised my detection and moved forward. The passage was long and wide. However, a thick black fog obstructed our view. Thanks to my developed eyesight as an intermediate monster, I could see up to 3 meters without difficulty, but beyond that, it was difficult. Of course, it does not look like a naturally occurring fog. God, this makes me nervous. I can't see more than 2 meters ahead. Don't rely on sight. You also have intermediate detection. Easy for you to say. Even detection does not work quite properly. It's not an ordinary fog. Yes, definitely. I suddenly realized. This fog was very familiar to me. Yes, why didn't I notice it immediately? I already know this fog. I have run and walked around this fog. The dark passage. It was this fog that made me unable to see anything in the dark passage. As I thought about the hours when I practiced surprise in the dark passage, my mind gradually calmed down, and the place began to look like my home training ground. As evidence of that, Lee Chanyu lost my presence. He panicked a little and looked around even if I was just in front of him. It meant that I could hide myself with surprise, even unconsciously. Captain, don't do this. I don't have the confidence to walk in this place alone. Get ready, Lee Chanyu. Can you feel them too? They're really close. It would be nice if we had the time to explore the place further. But it was time. I sensed them approaching us from beyond the fog. 3 rare, high-class species. Lee Chanyu took a deep breath and prepared for battle. I could understand what he's thinking. Rare monsters are the evolved form of the higher-level species. In 3F, the higher-level species have already reached the level where it was hard to call them intermediate monsters. Lee Chanyu was on the same level as the general monsters on the 3rd floor. It would be like me in a goblin's body facing a goblin knight. I smiled. I fought stronger monsters in a goblin's body in the Jinma Tower. However, it would be impossible for Chanyu to do it alone. I have to help him. Don't worry. You won't die. I'm not worried about that. I'm all in. I laughed behind him, then stared beyond the fog. Using time, mana, stamina, and finally material items, I installed a trap in the direction where the presence of a rare monster was coming from. Soon it came into view. One of them was floating with huge film wings. There is also another massive monster approaching slowly. Its 4 legs are heavy, creating slight vibrations in the black hallway. There was also another monster, lighter and quieter than the others. The trap was activated. It caught the giant monster in the passage. I guess it can't be helped. Immediately, Lee Chanyu rushed at it. I also rushed after him. But before that, I sent my 5 daggers flying. Keek! A monster's cry broke the silence. The flying monster recognized the approaching daggers, but could not avoid them all. One dagger caught its wings and tore it. After confirming that it landed, I rushed after Lee Chanyu. He was valiantly rushing toward the giant monster whose feet were trapped. However, the quiet monster was hiding behind the giant's back, possibly unseen by Lee Chanyu. The quiet monster completely concealed itself, believing that he will not be found. I was aiming for its defenseless neck. My skills were superior to anyone else here. I was also hiding behind Lee Chanyu. As I got closer, I caught its appearance and was a little surprised. Its shape was like a shadow, thin, long, and light as if it had no mass. I couldn't make sense of how a regular monster in 3F evolved into this form. The mana it had on its body was powerful, and he was pulling out a part of its body like a blade. Hob! The moment Lee Chanyu and the giant monster clashed, the shadow leaped off the monster, with its blade aiming at Lee Chanyu's throat. Just then, Blood Shadow flashed. It was charged with Black Lightning, Power Attack, and Beast Charged. It broke through the shadow's blade and stabbed it in the neck. But something unexpected happened. Kaya ha 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 ha. Everyone in the space halted as they heard the piercing voice in their heads. Surely, this was a skill that causes abnormal status. However, thanks to L, who drastically raised my tolerance for abnormality, the screams of the shadow didn't affect me. I put more force in my sword. As the shadow's blood coated the sword, flames rose on the blade, making him scream more intensely. Kaya ha 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 ha. It hurts. Ah, Captain, please, finish him quickly. I slashed the sword forward with one hand and caught the shadow's dismembered head on the other. I will enjoy this food, I said before taking a bite. You gained 57,910 experience. You acquired 58 silver. You obtained a fragment of the shadow spear. I cannot stop to eat even if I knew that its life has come to an end. I squeezed the head all in my mouth and hit the ground again. This is because the flying monster began to spit something out of its mouth. I'm having a hard time using the lunatic trickster because of this damn mist. I made full use of the beast charge to get closer to it as quickly as possible. It spat out an unrecognizable substance. It looked like acid. It hissed as it hit my body. It was disgusting. I have to finish it quickly. Coo! Advanced Fairy Tale has become LV3. You acquired the beginner shadow step. You acquired the beginner madness noise. As I quickly chewed and swallowed the shadow monster's head, I raised my blood shadow and tore off the other remaining wing of the flying monster. It crashed to the ground, leaving a bloody trail. You gained 52,482 experience. You acquired 49 silver. I ruthlessly chopped the flying monster to pieces, then pulled off the disgusting liquid that stuck to my armor and threw it away. I threw it in the direction of the giant monster that was struggling with Lee Chanyu. Ah! Lee Chanyu! At the moment when the liquid went inside the giant monster's wide-open mouth, the giant monster seemed frightened, and the greatest chance came to Lee Chanyu. Lee Chanyu did not miss it and stretched out both of his hands at once. His sharp claws, which glowed silver, pierced the chest of the giant monster. It didn't seem to have enough strength to pierce through, but Lee Chanyu roared and pushed it through the monster that was almost twice as large as he was. Ha-ah-ah-ah. It was a war cry. His claws shone brighter as his power was reinforced by war cry. Kahak! The giant monster raised its forefoot, but it stopped abruptly, its giant forefoot hanging in midair. Then it collapsed. Lee Chanyu pierced its heart. He really succeeded in defeating a rare monster, even with a little help from me. It was possible because he fully understood his strength and speed and how to use them. Ah, 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 ah. I laughed bitterly as I watched Lee Chanyu's roar of victory. Only, we have killed 3 of them, but with that war cry, it looks like more will come soon. Ugh! Lee Chanyu seemed to realize it just now. He stopped roaring and stood still as if reflecting. I retrieved my daggers and raised Blood Shadow with a smile. I didn't know how it would be in the realm of the rare species, but it was a good thing anyway because we could finish the quest quickly. It was worth repeating what we did in 3F. Captain, I can't blame him. I brought him here. I threw him a single-use mana potion I bought from the exclusive store. He looked pathetic, but he pulled out his claws anyway and prepared for battle. Soon, the struggle began. A battle that is much shorter and more intense than any mass appearances I've ever experienced. Chapter 56. 3F Breakthrough 4. 3F Breakthrough 4. How many rare monsters have we fought in that short period? There was no time to count them leisurely. Lee Chanyu's body became bloody and healed repeatedly, and for the first time, I felt that my advanced surprise skill was limited. The only hope was that there was still room for growth in the fairy tale skill. However, as its name suggests, the number of rare higher species was extremely small compared to the regular or higher species. There were only hundreds of rare monsters, and their sizes made it difficult for them to gather, so there weren't many monsters we had to deal with at once. However, unlike other monsters we have seen in 2F and 3F, the rare monsters did not express hostility to each other. They are different from the monsters we've met so far. They seem to be cooperating with other monsters. From now on, we had to fight against monsters with reason. Dealing with 3 to 4 rare high-class species at a time was very difficult, but at the same time it was a good experience. As I went through their various skills and techniques, I gradually got used to it and felt myself developing my response. Predation after hunting rare, high-level species in the Black Palace 3F 500/500. The quest requirement was satisfied even before the pocket watch's hour hand turned once. After a half-turn, there was only one monster left in my detection range. It was a gorilla covered with light blue hair. It roared and pounded the floor. White frost formed around it, visible through the black fog. Quo-oh-oh-oh! His fists were the size of a pot, and whenever they hit the floor, huge ice spears rise from the ground randomly within his range. An unpredictable and deadly attack. Surprise and fairy tale were useless against this. He attacked everything in his range mercilessly. He was the most terrifying among the high-ranking species I met here. Chit! I first reinforced my defense by making full use of the stone skin, a skill obtained by eating one of the monsters. However, the drawback was that my movements were slower when stone skin was equipped. It was the only way to not die from the spears. Quick! However, as I approached it slowly with the whip on my hand, Lee Chanyu suddenly jumped high in the air, neglecting the danger of being stabbed by ice spears. It happened in the blink of an eye. It was impossible for him to even think about it if his regeneration level was not above the advanced level. It really happened in the blink of an eye. It is impossible to dream if there is no regeneration above the advanced level. Ko-ho-ho-ho! Captain, now! The gorilla emits a terrible coldness that could freeze an opponent just by being near it, and Lee Chanyu, who jumped at it recklessly, had his lower body frozen in no time. Moreover, 2 sharp ice spears penetrated his body as he exposed himself in the air. I do not intend to waste the chance that Lee Chanyu earned. I quickly took off the stone skin, raised surprise and fairy tale, and sped towards the gorilla's direction. I made full use of leap and beast charge to increase my speed. The shadow step skill acquired from rare higher-level shadow monsters were added to it. It made my movements stealthier and faster. If the skill level of shadow step increases, it would be the perfect weapon. The gorilla, who had his sights on the falling Lee Chanyu and his arms raised towards the sky, roared without noticing me right underneath his massive chests. I felt a terrible coldness as I got close to him, but my higher-level tolerance prevented it from being difficult. Just before the gorilla returned to its position with its forepaws on the ground, I jumped while maintaining surprise and fairy tale. I put all my power on the blade of Blood Shadow. Blood Flame, Black Lightning, Power Attack, Speed Attack. If the distribution of power failed even a little, The blade would not be able to take it and scatter all the energy, so it was not as easy as it looked. I threw the sword with all my strength at the gorilla's neck. There was no way for him to avoid my attack. In an instant, blood flames with the power of intermediate flame magic melted the frost he emitted, and the black lightning torched his skin. Quo-oh-oh-oh. H-A-A-A. The next moment, blood shadow pierced its neck. However, the cold air radiating from him became more intense, as if he's using all energy he had left. I immediately let go of the sword, landed on the ground, and leaped backward. Then, it collapsed with a loud thud. Somehow, we succeeded. You gained 72,171 experience. You acquired 86 silver. Beginner speed attack becomes LV10 and evolves into lower speed attack. The time it takes to activate this skill is further reduced, and the attack speed is increased. You obtained frozen armor. You obtained the key to the 3F boss room in Black Palace District 7. I looked down at my hands, covered in frost. That's what happened as soon as I let go of the flaming sword. Abnormal resistance and regeneration were working in harmony, but I can't help but shiver. If even I was affected by the gorilla's ice, how about Lee Chanyu? Are you alive? Somehow, Lee Chanyu responded as he pulled out the second ice spear from his body. He was used to pain and had excellent self-healing abilities, but his face crumpled in pain as he finally pulled the spear out. Your advanced skills are really awesome, Captain. The same is true of your regenerative power. It came with the body of a werewolf, but yours, you trained to develop your skills to the advanced level. It was true. It would not have been possible for just anybody to produce such a powerful attack like the one I did on the gorilla. Stealthy, quick movement. A single blow that could finish the enemy. It was possible because of my advanced skills. Attack skills, magic skills, secondary skills complementing each other for a more intense attack. A synergistic effect wasn't just using 2 or 3 skills at once. Cannot be explained by numbers. However, there are 2 problems with the simultaneous use of skills. The first problem is that it was difficult to learn 2 similar skills or 2 skills that have opposite properties. It is not easy for someone who had mastered power attack to learn speed attack. It is not easy for someone who had mastered leap to learn beast rush. This applies equally to weapon mastery. A swordsman can find it hard to learn archery. A flame magician would find it hard to learn water magic. Then, masters of a weapon technique will find it hard to learn magic skills. It was only possible in my case because of predation. I took the skills of other monsters. It was so natural that I take it for granted, but it turns out that others who didn't have predation found it very difficult to learn skills in other fields after learning skills in one field. The second problem is simpler. There was a high cost to use multiple skills at the same time. It takes up a lot of mana, and in cases such as power attack and speed attack, it consumes stamina as well. It was hard enough to have multiple skills and harder to use them at the same time. Did you get the key, Captain? Yes. I checked the inventory to be sure. The boss room key was there. In addition, there was the frozen armor obtained from the gorilla. There was also a glowing armor composite scroll. That's just good timing, I thought, as I pulled blood shadow from the gorilla's neck. Captain, are you going to eat that ice gorilla? Of course. You are crazy. I ate the gorilla on the spot, hoping to learn the ice spear technique, but was disappointed. I just had to be content with learning beginner ice magic. Soon it was time. There were no monsters left. The boss battle is waiting for us. There would be no reason to delay what is inevitable. But before that, I used the armor composite scroll. Please select the main armor, 5 sacrifice armor, and materials. Up to 15 materials can be selected. Armor list. Blood iron armor. Izelix leggings. Kessia's leather armor. Shadow armor. Wolf vest. Frozen armor. List of materials. Pelcadia's jewel. Red. Pelcadia's jewel. Blue. Trickster eye. Werewolf's mane. Armored bear captain's leather. Ebony crust. Shadow spear. A scroll that combines 6 armors into one. At first, I thought it was a unique armor scroll a level after rare, but now, I remembered Rain telling me about the rank order of rarity. Rare, unique, then ancient, legend, and epic. Could this be a legend scroll? No, I received a legend scroll in 2F. This would obviously be an ancient one. What is that? A composite scroll? Right? Without hesitation, I chose blood iron armor as my main armor. Everything else would be for sacrifice. I didn't expect that Ezelic's leggings, which wasn't full-body armor, would be considered as a sacrificial armor. Anyway, all the sacrifice armors I have are either rare or unique, so I am excited about the result. I can select up to 15 ingredients. I picked all the finest materials except for the Pelcadia's gems and threw them into the synthesis vortex. Trickster's eye, pitch black crustacean. As I threw in the ingredients one by one, Lee Chanyu watched quietly with a strange expression. Since I had Lee Chanyu, the burden I suffered through in 3F was definitely reduced. He was brave and took the initiative to serve as my tank during monster attacks. The defense of blood iron armor was almost meaningless against the monsters in 3F, but thanks to Lee Chanyu's help and my own surprise and fairy tale skills, I was able to endure without difficulty. But I couldn't be satisfied with that. An emergency can happen anytime. It became obvious when we fought the ice gorilla. Had Lee Chanyu not moved quickly, I may have been pierced by ice spears by now. If I had good equipment, it would have been possible to charge without hesitation without worrying about being injured or incapacitated. After a few moments, light spewed out of the vortex. Then, slowly, the product was revealed, covered in dark red energy. Cloth? I felt blood rush to my face as I saw the product. I definitely chose my main armor to be blood iron armor, which was made of plate mail, but what appeared now is undeniably made of cloth. The main armor was made of plate mail, but the final product was cloth? I got nervous as I took it and tried it on. The size wasn't the problem. It fit me automatically. The same was true with blood iron armor, which I wore since I was a hobgoblin, and until now that I was a bugbear. However, the problem was the fact that the finished product was really made of cloth. Only, it was curiously glossy, but the material was certainly made of thread, woven with dark red thread, like blood. It was a plain, practical outfit that clung to my body tightly. I don't think it looked good on me. There was nothing special in it. Rather, it was even difficult to check my clothes because it was absorbing the light around me. I realized that absorbing light was not something that ordinary clothes would do. I hastily checked the information on the clothes I am wearing. Baptism of blood, 580/580. Defense 650. Rarity ancient. It absorbs light, making it difficult for others to recognize this garment and its wearer. It absorbs blood, restores durability, and grows. Increases movement speed by 30%. The armor composite scroll certainly did its job. Ahead of the boss battle on the 3rd floor, I got an ancient class armor that, according to Lee Chanyu, 1,000 people must die to get one. Chapter 57. The 5th Evolution, 1. The 5th Evolution, 1. Looking good, boss. Lee Chanyu raised his thumb when he saw me wearing the baptism of blood. You're like a ninja turtle or something. My mother taught me not to hit my friends. She taught you that? Are you trying to do something contrary to your mother's teachings? Boss. Compared to the armor, I knew well that the cloth was a bit tacky. A 250 centimeters tall monster is in a situation where he's wearing a dark red fabric that fits snugly. The world is going to laugh at me. I felt pathetic and put my fist down. I looked back at Lee Chanyu. He was wearing a pair of pants with his claws as his weapon. Lee Chanyu, will you really keep going like that? This is my strength. To develop regeneration skills, your body has to take damage. My combat skill is also related to my claws, so I really don't need any armor or weapons. Is that so? So, to develop regeneration skills, my body has to take a lot of damage the same way as him. It was a strange way of thinking that only among the fallen werewolves would think. I've seen it from the beginning, but his regeneration was really unusual. I wouldn't be surprised if, among the fallen, he survived to the end. That's why I thought he and I make a good team. Okay, let's get the job done and carry on. I'm going somewhere for a while. Sure thing, boss. I'll sniff around for the boss room's location. I called the entrance to the dedicated store. Before I challenged the boss, I always stopped by. And there was something I wanted to hear from Rain before I leave. And I think now is the right time. The first time, I was disappointed with the entrance store fee. 10 silver to enter the dedicated store? But now, I was able to hunt monsters that give me 20 silver or more per head. And now I'm holding money close to 30,000 gold. Even so, some would still call it spare change. Still, I shouldn't make light of this. The dedicated store's entrance fee is only 10 silver, but it costs 100 gold to enter the Garden of NAK. You could say that the first game I passed relatively smoothly, but I'm not sure about the second and third games. It may not even be a castle-building game anymore. Maybe it's a game leaning into her favor. Besides, her power that fascinated me at the first game was not the limit. She was just limiting herself to the rules of the game. I pinched myself on the cheek. When I opened my eyes, it was only the thought of Elle in my head. This is difficult. If you become overly conscious of her, you may lose the second game before you even know it. Of course, she is beautiful. Men from different walks of life will be compelled to fall for her. Even women will concede and praise her beauty. It was the violent kind of beauty that makes everyone fall in love with her no matter their standards. Moreover, she gives me a feeling. One that's deeper, more passionate, more sensual emotions. That's why it was dangerous. It's difficult to be loved for things I didn't remember. And Elle in the same league as Rain and A. It was a fear of mine to be able to share emotions with such a transcendent being. And above all, I was afraid of being weak because of someone else, someone full of both life and strength. My ego weakened, my concentration and determination weakened. I was afraid of it. I was scared to change because of her. In fact, to some degree, it was also the case when it comes to leech on you. I have been fighting alone since I opened my eyes as a goblin. Even though I had face-to-face encounters with Rain, A, and others, there were only occasional allies. Though I'm still not sure whether or not A is an ally. But meeting Lee Chan-yu and joining him changed me a little. I was no longer alone, and even if I wasn't wholly trusting, I relied on him little by little in battle. The burden of fighting was definitely reduced, the burden of death, the burden of loneliness. Is that the effect? I laugh and talk more. Didn't I exchange jokes with Lee Chan-yu just a little while ago? I don't think it was terrible, but any more would be difficult. I'd be complacent. Where I am, it has not changed since I opened my eyes. A dungeon. A dangerous place where you can lose your life at any moment. Boss, are you not going? I stopped being in my own thoughts. Lee Chan-yu's voice brought me back to reality. As I felt his wondering gaze at me, I shook off all unnecessary thoughts. Just this much. Nothing more. I'll be back. I answered him with a slightly firm voice, opening the door to the dedicated store. There, as always, was the figure of Rain smiling and welcoming me. Fate, welcome back. The last time I came to the dedicated store was when I went to CL. Compared to that time, my level, my money, everything changed tremendously, but he didn't show any surprised expressions. I was especially happy that he didn't react when he saw my clothes. Rain seemed to be interested in other things. How is she? I made a lot of mistakes. I thought you would. After all, it seemed to be heard. Rain shrugged. I couldn't help it. It's too harsh for her to stop seeing fate. No one can temper her. She is lovely. She is. It is the best in the world. Rain, who has never exaggerated except when talking to me, said so in a solemn tone. I never mentioned it, but I noticed it. As long as it is like this, I can't be fooled, because her attitude is so obvious. Her affection for fate is real without any disingenuity. I am trapped in the body of a bugbear like this. Ha. That's not important to her. Ha. I opened my mouth casually. Rain looked at me with a comfortable smile, but it didn't shake me at all. It went well. I was thinking about how I could tell the story, but Rain took care of explaining it to Elle. It wasn't Elle's story I was talking about, but it was deeply related because I came to think after meeting her. I was a human being. Rain looked at me and affirmed. You were. At one time, fate emphasized humanity. I'm right. I'm Kong Siha, who lived as the eldest son of a poor family on Earth, went to college, tried to eat Jajangmyeon with a friend, and died because his partner was unlucky, right? I couldn't stand it without asking. I was afraid to hear the answer, but I wanted to know before it was too late. Am I right? Am I really human? This was a question that I had been asking little by little from when I first opened my eyes as a goblin's body, but it never reached the point where I really wanted to know the answer. After meeting a fallen who thought he was the same, I felt relieved. For a moment, I realized that my situation was different from other fallen. As it happened, I had to be afraid. What am I so special? Initially, I was nothing, a nobody. Why is Rain so kind to me? Why is they expecting so much from me? Why does Elle look at me with such a gaze? One by one, doubts about myself spread out of control, and after the encounter with Elle, it reached a point where I could no longer stand it. I held it up to this moment today because I needed some time to organize my thoughts until I met Rain. And he concluded in his own mind. I could no longer deceive myself by saying, because I know there's nothing I can do about it. Even though there was nothing I could do, I wanted to know. What does Rain, and Elle want me to do? No, who the hell are they seeing in me? Was I really human? Maybe someone else misunderstood? So, who am I and why did I become a goblin? Rain answered my question with another question. What does fate think about the soul? It's the intangible, inviolable part of a person. That is a very accurate understanding. The soul is a sacred thing that no one can touch. This is the conclusion I was able to come to. I, who saw a glimpse of the relationship between the soul and the body through the Tower of Jinma and the Garden of Nak. It was thanks to Rain that I discovered the existence of the trickster in Jinma's tower. It was thanks to him that I was able to win the game without much confusion in the Garden of Nak. You already know, but why are you suffering? But, Rain, it's a different problem. It's the same problem, Rain asserted. He was smiling. Fate Nim is the same as Fate Nim from the moment he was born up to this moment. It's Fate Nim who hasn't dared to intervene or share and has existed alone. No one can scratch Fate Nim's soul. What about your partner? Ha! I couldn't believe my eyes and ears for a moment. Rain snorted. Don't be fooled, Fate, and please judge yourself later. I realized that this was the end of the conversation, but the price for courage was definitely paid. Only, Rain told me many things I wouldn't have wished to hear a few months ago, and those words made me feel at ease, even though there is no evidence that he is entirely reliable for me. Now then, Fate, you brought 30,000 gold, so why not go see a special product on sale after a long time? Now, we can offer you a set of Jajangmyeon and sweet and sour pork for 17 gold. After the serious conversation was over, Rain spoke in a cheerful tone and recommended me something. I replied with a smile, "Give me a glass of luck for the day, bartender." The all-clear alcohol, today's luck, gave me a buff that I missed somewhere that increased my experience by 50% for 3 hours. I took one shot of it, then took a seat. The only special sale items he gave me were food. What does that mean? The boss of the 3F Powered Reaper is a guy I can quickly deal with my current strength. With all of the weak fears, hesitations, and delusions in my heart, I returned to the dungeon. All that was left was to get to the end of this dungeon. Chapter 58. The Fifth Evolution, 2. The Fifth Evolution, 2. During a short time, while I was in the dedicated store, Lee Chanyu definitely found the location of the boss room. After the conversation I had with Rain was finished, I silently walked to the boss room without talking to Lee Chanyu and inspected myself. I have Baptism of Blood, Blood Shadow, Herma's Bloodstone Ring, and finally 5 daggers. Subsequently, my status was also confirmed. Kong Siha, Fate. Bugbear LV 89. Strength, 739 Stamina, 663 Magic, 514 Luck. Skills: Ebon Heart, Predation LV 4, Advanced Martial Arts LV 3, Intermediate Lunatic Trickster LV 7, Intermediate Armor Defense LV 8, Intermediate Regeneration LV 7, Intermediate Flame Magic LV 7, Intermediate Power Attack LV 6, Intermediate Black LV 9, Intermediate Leap LV 9, Advanced Detection LV 4, Advanced Surprise LV 9, Advanced Fairy Tale LV 3, Intermediate Beast Rush LV 9, Advanced Leadership LV2, Advanced Immunity LV3, Beginner Fantasy Magic LV4, Beginner Healing Magic LV6, Beginner Speed Attack LV2, Beginner Water Magic LV6, Beginner Fire LV3, Intermediate Flight LV2, Beginner Stone Skin LV8, Beginner Shadow Step LV2, Beginner Madness Noise LV1, Beginner Ice Magic LV4. There were many skills, if not too many. Of course, I use a lot of these skills, but there were also some that I barely ever use. Among the overwhelmingly useless skills, one of those was the flying skill that I acquired in the process of eating tens of thousands of flying monsters on the 3rd floor. It has since grown up to the intermediate level. If I got it early, when I was still a goblin, I would have been naively happy the moment I gained the skill. Flying in the sky was the romance of mankind. But it wasn't that big of a deal to me anyway. Even if I wanted to use the skill, it was only usable for those with wings or body organs related to flight. Because numerous monsters that could fly were abundant, this skill proliferated amongst the skills that grew through predation. And now it's intermediate level 2. However, wasn't it the material for the lunatic trickster, one of my best skills now, that created spider webs that was the forefront of uselessness? Either way, I was looking forward to using flight as a skill synthesis material. Anyway, the growth of my status and skills are going smoothly. I only liked that the surprise skill could not grow to the highest level, but everything else was perfect. I had some expectations that maybe I would grow up in the process of dealing with the powered Ripper. I stood in front of the boss room. I presented Lee Chanyu with an operation that wasn't actually an operation. I'll take care of the boss. Can you take care of the other 7 in the room? Without Lee Chanyu, I would have had to deal with the other enemy's attacks while dealing with the boss. I didn't think it was impossible, but if it would make hunting the boss more manageable, why would I choose the harder path? It must be all our rare and high-leveled species, right? MHM. Lee Chanyu smiled and confirmed. I'm good with that. You don't mind if I take them out, right? Don't die. Though he spoke jokingly, Lee Chanyu was trembling slightly, as was I tense. He tapped my shoulder before I noticed it. Don't worry about it. Come on. You don't have to come with me if you don't want to. I can do it by myself. No, don't mistake me. I want to do this. Then it can't be helped. I smiled lightly, put the boss room key in the keyhole, then turned it. The large iron door opened, and 16 eyes inside looked at us at the same time. Lee Chanyu muttered. It's a little different from the dungeon boss room I knew. Because, you guys. A humming voice rang in my ears. Because this is a black palace. An immense black shockwave hit us. It came from a dark-shaped monster wearing a black hood. It was a mana wave protruding from the tip of a giant scythe wielded by who is obviously the powered Reaper. I was convinced that even though I was wearing ancient-class armor, I wouldn't be able to block it. I immediately grabbed Lee Chanyu and used Leap and Beast Rush. However, the second and third swings flew in succession, making it scary to land on the floor. It left me no choice but to continuously sue my movement skills. But it wasn't just the enemy. Eat all you want. Food has come to relieve your hunger for many years. Karung. Kohang. The 7 monsters in the boss room with the powered Ripper were black, huge, red-eyed dogs. There was an image that came to mind when I saw them. Hell's hounds. Hellhounds. Even before the Reaper spoke, they were already chasing up. When they opened their big mouths, I saw what looked jagged and sharp teeth shaped like a saw blade. Even the black flames swaying from deep in the throat were not that terrifying. The moment I thought so, black flames shot out straight from their mouths. They really are hellhounds. Boss, throw me at them. Try not to die. I threw Lee Chanyu while running away from the black flames and the Reaper's shockwave. Lee Chanyu pulled out a long claw and landed it on the back of a hellhound. Screaming war cry. Ha-ah-ah. He shouted to grab the attention of the hellhounds. Unfortunately, there was one other caught in the war cry. Are you asking me to take care of you first? The moment he turned to Lee Chanyu, I rushed towards the Reaper with surprise, fairy tale, leap, shadow walk, and beast rush activated all at once. I'm reading all your energy. Break. Just before reaching him, a giant scythe fell vertically in front of my eyes, blocking my rush. You were reading my energy? What lies? If I read my moves earlier, I wouldn't have responded with such a passive defense. Does your ability to detect crease when they get closer to you? It could be the ability of a skill or an artifact. I kicked the scythe to the side and jumped into the air. I glanced at the powered Reaper's pale face as if looking through the body hidden under the hood. At the power of lunatic trickster triggered 3 traps. It was all tied to tie his feet and suspend him in the air. However, the next moment the body blurred, and just before the trap was triggered, it leaped into the air, moving fast enough to be considered teleportation. Intuitively, I noticed that the Reaper's previous skill was Shadow Step. It was a shadow step that far surpassed mine, which is still at the lower level. If you want to die that much, I shall deal with you first. Against the scythe he wielded, I swung with blood shadow. At the clashing of the 2 weapons, mana spewed out like a light, with a violent reaction. Could it be that I didn't know I could keep up with his power? The powered Reaper was clearly embarrassed. On the subject of Bugbear, the moment after I felt that the black energy from the scythe was intensifying, another scythe made of mana appeared over my head. In a split-second judgment, I created a trap made of half mana and 2 demonic hooks. It grabbed the mana scythe and bounced it off the powered Reaper. Ha! The moment he was wounded from the unexpected counterattack, he retreated. Not wanting to let this chance slip away, I made a whip of black lightning with one hand and swung it at him, wrapping around his neck. Hot! As I rushed towards him and stabbed my sword in his neck. I thought I could finish it this time if I could. But my judgment was wrong. While the Reaper was caught by the whip, his body blurred again, then disappeared and reappeared a little later. My body is close to ethereal. You are mistaken if you think you can hold me with that kind of magic. He didn't attack carelessly. Perhaps it was because he was wary of the trap that I used on his sickle a while ago. He was only focused on my timing, swinging the giant scythe in his hand. I got nervous when I found a black jewel that shone out of place on the base of the scythe's blade. The Jewel of Pelcadia. Perhaps it is the power of that jewel that helps him escape the Black Rose whip now? Regardless, I had to be on the lookout for any traps that might come out. Luckily, it was one of the things I got used to while hunting various monsters on the 3rd floor. I hit the floor again. The Reaper rushed towards me as if he was sliding in the air. Dozens of black spheres rising around him darted towards me before he could reach me. In retaliation, I had to use fire magic. At that moment, he disappeared before my eyes. At the same time, the Reaper's scythe rose from my feet. Ha 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 ha. Along with the Reaper's unpleasant laughter, the real scythe that glowed black sliced my body. What? This is not his shadow. To explain, he sliced the illusion of my body that showed only my appearance using the fairy tale skill. It was a remarkable achievement through linking abilities that I got used to now. When the trap inside the illusion was triggered, 5 demonic hooks tried to grab and pull him. I was embarrassed because the Reaper noticed it earlier than I thought. Still, when he finished grasping the situation anyway, I was positioned right behind him. Intermediate leap raised to level 10 and evolves into advanced leap. You can leap again in the air. It only consumes mana and stamina. Beginner fantasy magic raised level 10 and evolves into intermediate fantasy magic. It becomes possible to create a more realistic illusion. By consuming mana, it becomes possible to give temporary power and magic to the illusion. Without looking at the 2 notification windows, I swung Blood Shadow, blowing it across him. Power attack, speed attack, and finally, blood. At the end of the open swing from Blood Shadow, the Reaper's head was split in half. Kia ha! For the first time, he was able to elicit a satisfying scream from the enemy. However, the moment he made the critical hit, the scythe appeared randomly from all directions. I hurriedly made full use of Leap and Beast Rush, withdrawing back and landed. However, the Reaper's attack did not end just like that. The moment I stepped on the floor, the scythe rose from the tiny shadow created by the light in the dark boss room and tried to cut my foot. Observing it with a heightened sense, I left the place just before the scythe caught my ankle. Had it not been for the baptism of blood that absorbs light, the shadow would have been more significant than that, and if it had been, my ankle would have been cut off no matter what. Okay. At this point, I was sure. The power of Pelcadia's jewel that the Reaper possessed was none other than that of shadow. The shadow walk that was strengthened to the limit and attacking by invading other shadows was a ridiculously powerful ability. The first thing he reads is my movements, probably because of the darkness. I must have stepped on his shadow. In retrospect, the moment when Lunatic Trickster appeared was breathtaking. It was mistaken as me created by my flame magic. If not, the attack wouldn't have worked. I was lucky in many ways. It was like that now. If it had begun to invade my shadow before Leap reached the advanced level, there would have been nothing I could do. When he was looking down on me, I was very fortunate that my skill had improved in due time. I took out the corpses of the rare higher species I had saved in my inventory, eating them as my illusion leaped into the air. I kept stepping through the air without anything as if there was a footstool. My shadow can no longer threaten me. It's not that scary. In the end, the Powered Reaper was just a high-end intermediate monster. My illusion's propensity to fight was similar to mine, though at a lower level. The only thing to watch out for are shadows. A shockwave flew in again. I avoided it using Leap and Beast Rush at the same time. Once again, I stepped in the air and now saw him in front of me. I figured out how to tackle this, and I was sure not to rely on shadows. All the trajectories he swung in the air became mana scythes and flew at my throat. At that very moment, I used 50% of my mana to activate intermediate flame magic. A flame entwined me, him, and everyone around him. Foolish! Do you think you can burn me with that weak flame? Once again, a combination of illusion magic and fairy tale left only my presence and illusion in my place. At this close range, the trap shouldn't work, but now it will. There you are. Dozens of scythes rushed to my illusion. Good. He didn't detect me. Now that a particular space is filled with fire, there are no shadows created. Even there were, it would be far away from where we are fighting. This strategy won't last long. Avoiding the scythe flying overhead, I leaped into the air. Using surprise and fairy tale turned me into a haze in the flame, with Beast Rush lingering on both my legs. Using Leap created a foothold in the air. I kicked it. Intermediate Beast Rush raised to level 10 and evolved into Advanced Beast Rush. Accelerating and dead stopping is more manageable. If you use Beast Rush in tandem with other movement skills, the ability is amplified. Congratulations! You have satisfied the conditions for synthesizing special high-level skills. I don't see the notification window now. There's no time for skill synthesis during battle. A black scythe from beyond the flames ran into my body. Of course, I was expecting it. It's just one of the powers that the Reaper has. However, at this level, baptism of blood cannot be penetrated. In fact, it didn't do much damage. The scythe could only serve as a reminder of my real strength in comparison to the Reaper. The problem is that it was too late for him to notice. The moment when the Reaper recovered the thrust scythe, he looked astonished as I swung with all my mana poured into Blood Shadow. What? In one swing, I successfully removed the Reaper's neck from his body. You gained 250,109 experience. You acquired 500 gold. You acquired Pelcadia's gem, black. You acquired the cloak of the Lesser Reaper. I looked behind, trampling the body of the Powered Reaper falling to the floor. I had done my part, so I thought it was time to help my partner. That's what I thought, but Li Chanyu was evolving into a hellhound when I got there. Chapter 59. The Fifth Evolution 3. The Fifth Evolution 3. When did Li Chanyu and the hellhounds fight so quietly? I tried to think of an answer but just gave up. The Powered Reaper was strong enough to warrant all my attention to. It was powerful enough to cut off my neck the moment I'm caught off guard. I trusted Li Chanyu, so I didn't have to overthink it. But he didn't think about winning against the hellhounds. He's certainly strong, but the hellhounds are also rare high-leveled species. It would be an achievement to stall not just one but 7 of them simultaneously. But what about now? For hellhounds died and are on the floor, and the remaining 3 surrounded Li Chanyu from all sides as if protecting him as he evolved. His howls came out unlike a voice. It was an evolution, all right. He became a little taller, the shape and volume of his muscles were thicker as well as his hide. The most noticeable was the color of his fur, which was charred black. To be honest, I was a little shocked. His strength, willingness, and rapid growth were fully recognized. But I didn't think he'd evolve before I did. Wasn't he weaker than me? Of course, evolution doesn't mean he'll be stronger than me in just a snap, but the fact that he evolved first was surprising. Felt like I was lagging behind. I was implicitly putting myself above him, and it was true. I was certainly stronger, and I was convinced that I was ahead of him when hunting monsters, evolving, and delving deeper into dungeons. But now that he has evolved, it feels like I'm being paid back the price of my arrogance. I felt that I was fortunate to realize my arrogance before it was too late. When my colleague evolved, I felt only contempt for myself, who was embarrassed and irritated more than happy. Inside me was a desire to hurry. I cannot fool myself, so I decided to admit that I was jealous of him. Envy is not bad in itself. It is one of the biggest motivations that can incite either positive or negative action. It's important to manage your behavior by yourself to determine the best course of action by analyzing the object of that envy, yourself, and the environment. Since Lee Chanyu is my colleague, I have to utilize my envy to make a positive action. In other words, I must evolve quickly. If so, there wouldn't be any problem anymore. Being strong was a goal that I set for myself. It was the most desirable thing for Lee Chanyu and me. As I organized my thoughts, I saw that Lee Chanyu's evolution had finished. He opened his eyes and inspected every part of his body. Satisfied with the development, he sighed and nodded. Woo! The three hellhounds lay down with their bellies up. It was standard behavior of dogs, much like those of the lower position prostrating themselves to the alpha. Stand up! Lee Chanyu formed the hellhounds with a gesture. But at that moment, the throne of the boss room disappeared and, in its stead, was a wooden box. It was a bonus that a dark passageway leading down appeared on the wall behind it. There was a way to progress to the next floor without killing all the monsters in the boss room. Although it wasn't that simple to take control of the monsters in the boss room, just knowing that fact is a good thing. Lee Chanyu also confirmed it, with a faint relief portrayed by a dark-furred wolf head. I barely survived. You said you'd beat them all. People change their minds all the time, boss. After completing his evolution, Lee Chanyu's impression was sharper, though it seemed like he was envious of himself. Is this evolution? I feel like I've become an entirely new being from my previous one. I feel really different. You said you can control only wolves. Looks like it's expanded across canines, if not beast types. Moreover, it looks like permanent domination rather than temporary. I think that's what happened. Is that why my evolution took place? He said that while fighting tooth and nail against the 7 hellhounds, he succeeded in making 3 of them his subordinates using his own power. It was previously thought impossible. Moreover, hellhounds are in the top tier among intermediate monsters. In simple terms, they're monsters with a higher value than Lee Chanyu, a werewolf. In a way, it was a situation that could only be seen as a miracle. Immediately after the battle, Lee Chanyu, after achieved an overwhelming victory against the 4 hellhounds, evolved into a werewolf beast commander that strengthens his power and enhances the entities he has under his command. Wouldn't you normally have to become a beast commander to control hellhounds? By the way, I became a beast commander by making the impossible happen. I was able to make them my guys and evolve. Why is this happening? I don't know this was even possible. He kept talking as if it didn't make sense after doing it himself. I denied him on the spot and said my honest thoughts. What's great about doing what you know you can do? What is great is doing the impossible and evolving in return. I'm not sure, boss. Maybe I don't deserve this evolution. Are you happy with it? That's the question. Lee Chanyu stroked the heads of the 3 hellhounds one after another. They seemed happy to have him as their master. It looked like a very surreal sight. Yes, I am. With a nod, I returned to my work. The first I checked was the loot from the Powered Reaper. I put Pelcadia's jewel with the other ones. The other one, the cloak of the Lesser Reaper. I thought it was material, but surprisingly, it was a piece of armor. Lesser Reaper's cloak, 278/597, defense, 220 rarity. Unique increases the power of movement skills by 20%, and increases the power of dark magic by 10%. I felt joy because I got it from a place I never expected. Baptism of blood I like for defense, but increases movement skills by 20% is nothing to scoff at. A 5% difference could mean life or death, so why wouldn't I be happy? Best of all, wearing this cloak hides baptism of blood. Although wearing it over the cloth seemed to create its own style. Fortunately, wearing the cloak does not reduce the abilities of baptism of blood, and the light-absorbing effect was still there even if it was obscured by the mantle. At that time, Lee Chanyu casually let out a chuckle as he saw me wearing the cloak. "You've got great style. Mother, help me." "No, I'm sorry. Don't clench your fists at me, boss." I looked down at the Powered Reaper. It's naked with the cloak missing. I figured I'd get dark magic if I ate this guy. "You gonna eat that?" "I'll enjoy this food." I ate the skinny guy's face with my mouth wide open. Predation of Powered Reapers 1/1. Magic has increased by 5. Intermediate Black Rose has become LV4. Beginner Shadow Walk has become LV5. I was wrong. That was all I got from eating a really bland Reaper. I didn't get any dark magic. Instead, weird results came out. It was reasonable for Shadow Walk to level up since the Reaper kept using it. But Black Rose? Of course, he didn't use any Black Rose. He probably didn't have it. So was he dealing with lightning magic? Most likely not. Then there could only be one answer. It is the possibility that Black Rose belongs to dark magic. So, I couldn't get the dark magic that he had, but instead, it was replaced with a skill used to strengthen Black Rose. Why only Black Rose? Although it is a skill that I use well now, I thought that I would like to have the mana scythe that the Powered Reaper used as well as that massive scythe. I remembered the past. Obtaining Black Rose was unique and annoying. The Ebon Heart seemed to be doing something to prevent me from getting any other dark magic. If that is indeed so, that means that Black Rose is a special skill. So, it's better to give up early on what you can't get and invest in the growth of Black Rose. The second thing to do was skill synthesis. During the battle, I remembered that as Beast Rush reached the advanced level, it became possible to synthesize higher skills. The notification window still didn't disappear entirely and stayed in the corner of my vision. I called it back before my eyes. "Congratulations! You have satisfied the conditions for synthesizing special high-level skills." It wasn't just an advanced skill. A high-level skill? Are you referring to that one skill that creates traps? No, anything other than that. There's another high-level skill? You're a beast, boss. I could say the same to you. We laughed. Then I called the notification window. I was just guessing, but nevertheless it was because I wanted to check the list of skills that I could use skill synthesis on. Special advanced skill ubiquitous. Can be synthesized. Advanced or higher movement skills 2, leap, beast rush, acquisition, intermediate or higher special movement type skills. Fly, acquisition, intermediate or higher fantasy magic acquisition. 2 advanced combat skills, martial arts, surprise. Holds 2 or more intermediate or higher magic skills. Black lightning, flame magic. More than 3 advanced combat assist skills. Detect, leap, beast rush. Special high-level skills are skills that can be created when you have the skills that meet the requirements and grow specific skills to meet the conditions. Unlike standard skills, it is challenging to grow, but it is powerful even at low levels. Would you like to synthesize beginner ubiquitous skill? It will consume advanced leap, beast rush, intermediate flight, and fantasy magic. No matter what conditions and merits it may have, the backlash from starting back to beginner level could be fatal. Beginner, it is the starting level in the ABCs of skill levels, and ubiquity wasn't really a proper skill. The difference in abilities between beginner and lesser skills was more significant than the difference between the lesser and intermediate skills and between the intermediate and higher skills. However, no matter how special this skill is, to start from the beginner level was like telling an eagle that's used to flying to begin as an eaglet. However, what if that eaglet didn't aim to become just an eagle, instead, become Garuda, flapping its vast wings that block the sky? There have always been concerns about creating higher-level skills. These worries were particularly intense, as there was no description of the skill called ubiquitous. But I decided to do this. The conditions for creating this skill were harsh. The fact that it was a special high-level skill with a strong power even at that lowest level led to my determination. First of all, it wasn't clear that the result won't be a movement-based skill that I wanted. But I started synthesizing nonetheless. Advanced Leap, Beast Rush, Intermediate Fantasy Magic, and Flight have been consumed. You have acquired Beginner Ubiquitous LV1. Moves you to a destination within the field of view. You can leave an alter ego with physical and magical power in place of where you are. The alter ego will disappear if there is no supply of mana. Until it disappears, it will move according to its will. Wow! A sigh of relief came out. It was because I got the skills I wanted to acquire. The tactic I have been using since I gained fantasy magic. A tactic I used to move quickly and leave an illusory alter ego in my place. However, it was remade as a new skill. Moreover, this skill is back to beginner level now. If I grow more and more in the lesser, intermediate, and advanced level, I might be able to exist everywhere, like the name of the skill ubiquitous means. There are also apparent drawbacks. I can no longer use Leap and Beast Rush and Intermediate Fantasy Magic. Leap and Beast Rush have a purpose not only to enhance an attack, but also to use fantasy magic to create an illusion and a myriad of other uses. But every choice comes with a cost. I decided not to think more about what I lost. It would be wiser to be happy with the power of my first special high-level skill. Did the boss become stronger? Isn't this a little unfair? Can you make a higher-level skill? Damn, no. Only, a skill book came out of the treasure chest. The same skill book as the trap creation skill book that I once bought from the dedicated store. However, that skill book allowed me to learn Stone Skin, a skill that I already have. Take this. It's a skill that will stop you from depending on your hellhounds, shielding you. Oh, come on. Lee Chanyu quickly learned Stone Skin while tingling. Stone Skin is an optimal skill for him, who always prefers to receive attacks with his body. After eating the 4 dead hellhounds, there really was nothing more on the 3rd floor. Lee Chanyu gulped while looking at the dark passage leading to the 4th floor, but I had no intention of going down for now. Conquer the 2nd floor of Jinma's Tower 0 to 1. Evolution. It was the step forward for me too. And now was the time for me to take that step. Chapter 60. The 5th Evolution, 4. The 5th Evolution, 4. If you qualify to enter the 2nd floor of Jinma's Tower, you should already be level 80. I was convinced that if I went straight there, then I wouldn't be able to come back for a while, so I was putting off entering Jinma's Tower until the time came. And now, I have satisfied the conditions of every quest but Jinma's Tower and raised my level to a point where I'm satisfied. I wanted to get to level 90 if possible. When I reached level 89, I couldn't even fathom how much experience I needed to level up. Any more than this can't be put off. I have to clear the dungeon as quickly as possible. To do that, I went through the dark passage and reached the 4th floor. After passing through the gate on the 3rd floor, this dungeon was connected with corridors. Its walls seemed to be made of obsidian, similar to the 4th floor. Instead, the 4th floor had a high ceiling and wide corridors as if the palace had been renovated. Moreover, there was an abundance in the energy of life in the passages beyond the entrance. In short, there were at least hellhound-level high-class species scattered throughout the floor. I was assuming that said monsters may just be waiting for us beyond, so I might be expecting the worst. I'll be back. I'll just wander around the entrance until you come back, Lee Chanyu said with a rather comfortable smile. He looked tense, but his recent evolution into a beast commander seemed to have instilled some confidence in him. Moreover, the 3 hellhounds under his control seemed to be the most reliable protectors in case of emergency. I'm not going to use them as a shield. We'll be hunting together. Ah, yes, I won't die. I'm managing well by myself. I opened the door to Jinma's Tower. Away from the trickster's influence. No, the inside of Jinma's Tower, which was revealed after the death of the trickster who fooled me, was quite dark. But at least the light was bright enough for me to recognize A's face from across the room. You're late. said as soon as he saw me. His voice was audible, even at such a distance. I thought I would see him as the first challenge on the second floor, but when I came to, I felt a different pressure from him than when we first met. First of all, he had a burdened appearance. He was handsome and muscular, and he was big enough to not be pushed by a bugbear's body like mine. If Rain had the feeling that comforts people and Elle excites people, then it makes people feel overwhelmed. I felt like I was facing something vast and inhuman. Don't people feel helpless in front of an absolute being? Yes, it's silly to discuss the strengths, but I think it's probably is this something he does on purpose? Or is it because my senses have improved that I can see some of his skills? I had other things to do first, I responded, struggling to get used to the pressure. Have you met her? Even though he didn't know Rain, I thought that he would not react to Elle. His reaction was so unexpected that I couldn't answer for a while. But there was no need to hide things from him. Yes, she calls herself by Elle. Elle? He muttered, then laughed. Laughed? In a moment, Elle's face popped into my head. After all, her beauty was so great that even I was enamored. I don't know what A thinks of her, but it was surprising to see his expression change by mentioning Elle. Maybe a being here had something to do with Elle. However, he quickly turned to his expressionless face again. The second floor of Jinma's tower. The adversary you will face is a legion that does not die. I haven't said that I'm going to challenge the second floor yet. Moreover, this place seemed to be the same as the first floor. Was the first and second floor a play on words? When they are no more, that is when your challenge is completed. There was no time for me to mull over what he said. Even before I finished speaking, for walls rose up around just as he did when I challenged the first floor of the tower. I sensed slight malice in his words. I wonder if I've gotten mad at the fact that I noticed A's feelings. It was needless anger that I wish I could hide until the end. There was no time for me to blame A. Even though the trickster is no more, a small black fog began to rise around me. I noticed only now that the walls were further apart than the first floor. I must say that the size of the arena had increased. Then they appeared. Ha ha ha. I feel warmth. It is the energy of the living. Inside the black fog were monsters of different kinds but share similar characteristics. They had no blood, only rotting flesh and bones. I immediately realized what I said. Those who are revived. Undead. There are so many things to call them by, but the undead were definitely the worst enemies. Life is so dreadful. I have to battle this thing that I can't eat. I can't use the inventory. With that, most things I can do are gone. Most of my skills consume magic and stamina. The same applies to the special high-level skill Ubiquitous that I synthesized a while ago. And it's because of the inventory that I can use these high-consumption skills freely and can recover stamina and magic using predation. But what if I can't take advantage of predation in battle? For example, what if the target is something I cannot consume, like right now? Oh. Offer your blood. The only things that can be consumed with predation are creatures. Of course, the undead are not creatures. Skeletons, zombies, and ghouls reanimating all over the arena cannot be consumed. Then what do I need to do now? This is simple. Even if it's a legion that cannot die, it will disappear if it's destroyed. If I can figure out all their numbers and distribute my stamina and magic accordingly, I will complete this challenge. First of all, I distanced myself from them, because the monsters were rising from behind me. I swung Blood Shadow, but unfortunately, I could crush them with just that. If I keep attacking, I could get rid of them. But just swinging the sword several times will consume stamina even more than only using skills. In other words, I have to thoroughly analyze the strength and magic consumed by all my skills and find the best course of action. And I have to kill all these guys before I get tired. Among the skills I have, I used the skill that uses up the least stamina possible. Speed attack. Compared to a normal attack, it consumes more, but it was more convenient than regular attacks in that it was able to end 3 undead all at once. As soon as I finished using the skill, I stepped back and looked at the number of monsters, which reached about 1,000. Such numbers made me feel tired even before warming up. There are roughly 3 types of undead. A skeleton, ones made of bones, a zombie, a monster of rotten skin and bones, and ghouls who are zombies but stronger. Fortunately, the undead are not intermediate monsters, save for ghouls. Skeletons and zombies have to go through my cloak and baptism of blood, so they didn't do much damage. The ghouls were much faster and stronger than the other two, but compared to the monsters I've dealt with thus far, they weren't that much of a threat. Despite that, how many monsters can I deal with without eating? I hadn't counted that far, so I couldn't figure it out. But from what I've seen, it's not looking pretty for me. If I keep doing what I've been doing, it would be impossible to slay 1,000 undead. Fuck. I thought my preparations were thorough but didn't expect this. What do I do in order not to die? I had to figure out their power, speed, and the amount of damage they can do to me, the amount of energy I need to spend to destroy them, the distance and direction to move. Just like the moment when I considered the first floor of Jinma's tower impossible but beat it anyway, I had to do the same here. I saw 3 ghouls in front of me. Damn it! I muttered, then charged right at them. I got used to their attack patterns after slaying 7 of them. It was fortunate that my body, stamina, and magic were restored every time. So did the durability of my equipment. After that was over, I gauged the amount and range of the damage my skills could do to them, and when to use surprise and fairy tale. Even the amount of stamina consumption when using them together in succession. Since the decrease in strength and magic could not be quantified, all of the work was done using detection. Even with detection, an accurate measurement is impossible, but it was something to go on. As I continued to use it, subtle differences gradually came into light. Where to hit the enemy to do more damage, how to move to my body to accumulate less fatigue, figuring out which skills would be most efficient for the situation, and coordinating movement. There were things I hadn't thought much about until now. To be precise, I would have to say that I didn't afford to pay attention up to this point. But it meant a lot. To save my stamina and mana, I had to change my tactics, like breaking myself down and rebuilding myself in a new, better way. The high-level detection was really great. I just thought that scrolls were no longer needed, but the capabilities didn't end just there. It detects external and even internal changes caused by enemy actions. It identifies how much a part of yourself is affected by your actions and how much it affects externally. Even the small difference in hand gestures made a big difference. I was amazed why I hadn't noticed it until now. Only surprise and fairy tale were showing efficient movement. Even I was still far away. It was embarrassing that I was screaming about my advanced skill. What would you do if your skill level was high? You have to produce more potent power with the least amount of effort. I shouldn't be satisfied with just detecting the enemy. I had to fully understand myself and be able to move along the best path I already knew. Determine the enemy's movement, then the next, then their mana flow. I should be able to grasp the enemy's intention instinctually. I'm glad I figured it out now. I gritted my teeth as I controlled the force on my legs to avoid the claws swinging from my left. Advanced detection has become LV5. And from the moment I realized how to improve myself, the time it took for me to die gradually began to increase. Advanced martial arts has become LV4. When I died for the 27th time, I was able to destroy 950 undead. Advanced martial arts has become LV5. Lesser speed attack has become LV9. When I died for the 35th time, I had only 10 undead in front of me. Advanced detection has become LV6. Lesser shadow walk has become LV8. And when I was resurrected for the 49th time, I succeeded in destroying all the undead in the arena. I won. I looked around, muttering. It was still full of black fog, but advanced detection clearly informed me that there was no one except the crumbling undead that came out within it. I squeezed both my strength and magic. It was a perfect move that I couldn't believe. I now had the confidence that I had gained more than my skill level dictated. No, I've always been dazzled by numbers. Even at the same level, the power I could produce according to my movements and mana operation was divided into rows and columns. I won. I've conquered the second floor of Jinma's tower. The moment after thinking so, something caught my ankle. Without looking into it much, I realized it was a ghoul's wrist. A wrist that I just broke and shattered. Only, fun. It's fun. And it hurts. I want to share this joy with you. As if waiting for everyone to finish their break, the undead rose again from everywhere. The skeleton, which had been divided into countless pieces and fragments, assembled entirely within the black fog. The zombies gathered their flesh and reconstituted. The ghouls laughed at me, taking their heads back over their necks. "You fool! You are the one who is living after all." Why didn't I pay more attention to A's words? He never said that they were just undead or the resurrected legion. He only said it's called the legion that does not die. I had to take a step back and reflect on his words. As he said, they were really an undying legion. I thought it would be solved if I broke them to bits and pieces, but that wasn't all. I made a mistake in my calculations. And another question popped up in my head. We've reached the end of today's episode. Thank you for traversing the boundless landscapes of fantasy with us. If today's story has sparked joy within you, please remember to hit the like button, share our journey with others, and subscribe to Lord of the Stories for an ever-expanding collection of mystical escapades. Until we meet again to turn the page to a new adventure, hold the tales dear in your heart and let the embers of magic warmly glow in your spirit. Farewell, intrepid explorers of the narrative unknown.